Hello everyone, my name is Felicia and I'm from LabLab.ai team. And today I'm happy to welcome you on our AI talks. This time a little bit unusual. I will be the host of this talk. And today we have our guest, amazing guest, honestly, is Prado, who is the entrepreneur. I'd say like real innovator. He's working a lot with company culture. He working a lot with gamification, as you may see on our poster to this event. He's so much connected with it, and he has really 7 and more than 7 years of entrepreneur experience, and he has more than 10 years of training experience. So he has a lot to share with us today, and we will talk mostly about gamification, about the design thinking, which is his main area, and about AI, of course. Ivan, happy to have you here today with me. Can you please tell about yourself more probably than me?
Thank you so much for the intro, Lysia. So my name is Ivan. You can also call me Ivan. I do that when I'm speaking English. I'm originally from Brazil, and I have been an entrepreneur at Skill Lab for about almost 8 years now. So 7-ish years. It's been a great journey, especially with the challenges of the pandemic and everything. I started my career in training and development, doing soft skills workshops, leadership development workshops. And in 2018, I made like a partnership with a Swedish company that has business simulations. They're like board games where you play for up to 3 days. So you play one game for 4 hours, 8 hours, up to 3 days. And in those games, you simulate a company. And by doing that, you learn in a fun way, an engaging way, more about businesses and even some technical issues. So I fell in love with that because having a background in chemical engineering and, well, a lot of theoretical subjects, learning subjects such as finances, like corporate finances, in one day by playing a game was something that really got into me. So, because of that, I started learning more about gamification, about game design, more as a hobby, but I would never expect to now be considered like an authority in this, like being an international speaker on gamification, working on my first book, and yeah, working with even Fortune 500 clients on gamification programs or game design. Um, so yeah, the pandemic has helped a little bit because when we talk about gamification, we talk about ways of increasing engagement in products and services, so people would participate more, and is a way also to create new habits, so to induce behavior. And with the pandemic, remote work, hybrid work, people felt like the companies, they felt that they needed a way of getting people closer to the office or at least more engaging. And it has been good for business somehow.
Okay, let me ask you about the gamification that you mentioned. Could you, like, for us to be on the same page, explain in simple words, what does mean gamification in your business? What's mainly you working with?
Yeah. So when we think about gamification, we have to think about games. When we go into the game industry, it's actually bigger than the movie, cinema, and music industries altogether. And there's something about games that are highly engaging. I don't know about you, but I know people that sometimes put an alarm clock at 4 a.m. just to water a virtual plant, or maybe spend 3, 4 hours throwing birds at pigs, like at Angry Birds. Why would
Yeah,
people
yeah.
do that? And why would they, like wake up at 4 a.m. to water a virtual plant, but would get late getting into work? Or why can they spend so much time like playing games that sometimes doesn't even make a lot of sense, but they can barely stay 1 hour on an Excel spreadsheet. So by trying to understand that, trying to understand what elements inside of games drive that engagement, drive that behavior, we try to apply that into real life situations, be that into a program, be that onboarding an employee, be that to develop a new habit. So we use that uh, to do gamification work, to do gamification programs. Of course, most people they learn about gamification and they might think of apps like Duolingo, uh, because those are some apps that got famous and have some engagement. We do think that these apps they were a lot of success back then. They used some systems that we understand as PBL, like points, badges, and leaderboards, which are ways of virtually rewarding people for their behavior. And this is something good that happens in games that sometimes we miss in real life, which is the constant feedback. You know, when you're playing a game, if you do something that is good for you, that is good for the game, the story, you will be bigger, you will dance, you will be happy, you will receive points, you will receive coins. So you will receive some sort of feedback that will make sure you are on the right path. If you do something that is not good for you, that is wrong, you get like poisoned. You will, get smaller. You will lose a
Okay.
life, lose points, and things like that. So this is one thing. Of course, there are hundreds of different mechanics, but I say that constant feedback is one of the things that we see in games that we most need in our real lives because sometimes we're kind of lost and we don't know what to do or how to do stuff and we're just like figuring out. Like in a game, you just when you start, you already know your goal, your mission. You have to save the world. You have to return the ring to its place. But what about real life? You don't. You might, if you're lucky, find the purpose in life or plan yourself some goals. But there's no like victory. There's no way of like finishing the game. Um, so usually we base ourselves into our parents or people that inspire us. But these are some things that we relate so much in games, like instructional manual. Like you start learning how to earn the superpowers, and we kind of miss that in real life. So gamification is a way to implement these feedback systems, these game mechanics into real life.
That's a very good and very complex answer, I said. And I would divide for this interview gamification on two types that I'm interested in. First of all, is gamification for business, for customers. I mean, like, when you gamificate your product for customers. And the second is gamification for internal culture, for employees that work with you. And the first question is regarding the first point when you use gamification to your product. Can you agree that businesses that use gamification are more rather to build very good community than the businesses that don't use it?
I, in my real honest opinion, I feel that gamification is one framework. It's one methodology. It works if you use it well. It works if you understand your audience. So it can be really good. Uh, I say that gamification won't save the world. It just make like the journey of saving the world a little bit nicer. So yeah, of course you can have better results. There's a research that says that, for example, there are some advert games. which are games used for advertisement, publicity. And in those games, besides of like strengthening your brand, you can, for example, depending on how much someone scores, you can give them a coupon for 20% discount on your product, for example. This research said that a person that earns the coupon is 7 times more likely to use that coupon than a person that just like finds a coupon online because well I deserved it, like I played for it, I earned it. And even though I don't need the product, even though I don't need this course, the service, I want to use the coupon because it's a prize I got for my work. So it is a way of engaging people and driving decision, of course, but it has to be well done, especially because gamification was on a high like 10 years ago, but because people kept doing the same, people kind of got used to that. So we started developing mechanisms to say, oh, this person is playing me somehow, and it doesn't feel very genuine or good enough to really drive results. Um, but yeah, it can definitely do. When we talk about like using it in products, there's caution that you have to have. Um, One thing I always say, like when you ask food in a delivery app and you receive like a small gift that you were not expecting, like a small piece of chocolate, for example, you get surprised. There's like unexpectancy. It's one of the motivators of gamification, the surprise effect. And then, wow, you liked, you asked again, and then the chocolate comes again, and oh, nice. But, well, it happened 2 times. It's not a surprise anymore. And then the third time you ask that food on the delivery app, there's no chocolate in it. Oh, where's my chocolate? Like you didn't care about the chocolate before, but now it's like acquired
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
Like I want my chocolate. Like I don't care about the food anymore. I just want my chocolate again. And this is like one of the things that can be tricky about doing gamification because it's a double-edged sword. If you get people used to a behavior, when you take that behavior back, it can backfire. Um, but as well, you can like use that and like someday you don't send anything, another day you send like a note, another day you send, that brings the surprise element, and people are happy to, oh, nice, they remembered me, they value me somehow.
Okay, maybe you have some cases for us to share when you implemented the gamification process in some businesses or startups, maybe even technical one, so our listeners can get value from this.
Yeah, there are two cases that come to my mind when I think about the gamification programs we delivered. One, it was for a Chinese renewable energy company. We had, so they have 3 hydroelectric plants here in Brazil, and most of their employees they are not very tech savvy. So we did have to build the gamification online, but we also had to deliver it like offline, which was some sort of challenge for us, but it was really nice. This project was about creating a culture of feedback in the company because when they were looking at the employee turnover rates, so how many people would leave the company voluntarily, they didn't get fired, they left for another company. They saw that many people wrote on their feedback that they were leaving because they didn't feel they were growing because they lacked feedback. So they were not getting enough feedback from their managers. And thinking about that, the company wanted to implement a culture of feedback. So we designed a 4 week program where every week they would receive from 3 up to 5 different challenges, quests, where they would have to either ask or provide feedback, not only for their managers, but for their peers, their colleagues, their family, their friends, even like their gym instructor. They would have to ask different questions, such as what are the first words that come to mind when you think about me? What is one thing you think I need to work on? I need to improve. So that makes the feedback process way lighter. It's not like, oh, I have to talk to you. Oh, I need to give you some feedback that you just like, shake like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? But something that you do on a daily basis and you get like from different spheres of your family and friends that makes feedback so easily done. And when the whole company is asking and giving feedback, it's and you do that for 4 weeks in a row, you start implementing habit, the habit of feedback, and it starts working a little bit easier than just like those formal conversations.
That's very funny. You remind me just we have this. It's cool. We have these small notebooks with different like it's very colorful, and you just give it to your friends and to your classmates. They write about you very nice things, and it's not so hard to write because you have it like it's super cool in super cool form. So I agree. It's the kind of gamification for feedback. It sounds very nice. We have actually a very good question in chat, and I will just read it. How is gamification different from games in business? And is gamification is mandatory feature in today's business? That's I guess that's very good. It's even two questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for the questions. They're super relevant. Um, I say that gamification, game design, they are different because gamification, well, it's not a game itself. It could be pictured as a game, as a journey, even as like a board game somehow. But it's something that it the goal is for people to take action. When I'm building a gamification, I am building ways of people to engage, and I am giving that feedback. I'm giving that reward. I'm using those things that work in games to make them do something, participate in something. At least, like from my experience, this I have not read like anywhere. It's something that I got like from experience. We usually use the gamification for people to do things, to take action. The game design itself, it's like an immersive experience. We started as a training company, so usually the games we build is for training purposes. So you will have the objective in mind, right? When we think about training, we think about the learning objectives. What will people remember after the training? Um, and we try to bring that inside that game. The game, it has like a beginning and an end. Of course, you can later come with expansions, you can come up with new ways of playing, but usually it's something that lasts 1 hour, 1 day. It's something the gamification now you can always be implementing and you can always bring new habits. So one of the examples that we did, it was actually this year we designed the game for Intel, which was super cool to train their retail partners. But the first game we developed, and it's actually one of my favorite ones, um, was for a healthcare company. They manage a lot of hospitals, and they brought us a PowerPoint with a 20-minute training on fire security, fire safety training. And that was very complete, but it was a lot of technical language. It was really hard to understand. So what we did is we transformed that PowerPoint into a card game where we had like 10 different types of fire, like a simulation based. And you would have like each fire would start in a level of dangerousness. Like, oh, you have this fire that you have to take care of. Every participant would receive a fire. There were more fire situations on the deck that they could maybe manage more than one fire at once. Their goal was to bring that fire to safety, or to level zero. The who gets there first, uh, ends up winning the game. It needed to be fast, so because they were training more than 50,000 people a year with that game. Um, but yeah, so we did like the different kinds of fire extinguisher, of course, in a better way. We differentiated the kinds of fire, for example, an electrical fire, in a microwave, or in a computer, or in an air conditioning, because you cannot use, for example, a water-based fire extinguisher on that, or you make the fire even worse. I mean, adding water to electricity, sometimes it doesn't work, right? So we made sure to make that a part of the learning experience. And we also have the effect cards, which are things that can happen in a fire. So things that you should do to be safe, and things that you should avoid doing also to be safe. So, for example, if someone there's a card to cover your mouth and nose with a wet cloth, to protect you from the smoke. Oh, that will help you. So -1 for the dangerousness of the fire. But there are cards like, for example, coming back to get your belongings, like your computer and things. Well, that's highly dangerous. So that would add to the dangerousness of the fire. And the good thing that make the game so exciting is that, as in life, we don't know what can happen. So we would enable participants to throw cards at each other. So, like, hey, mate, you're not supposed to use the elevator, +3 in dangerousness to your fire. So it was
Okay.
highly competitive, and it was a way to understanding, like, visually, how to be
Mhm.
safe in a fire and what not to do if a fire happens. Um, so yeah, it was. I don't know, like, probably showing the cards and everything, it's easier to understand, but hopefully you got a grasp on how a
Yes.
simulation can help you understand, instead of like having all those simulations, which are super important, like where you have to go down the stairs and do everything, and train. That has to happen as well, but then you know why, because it happens actually a lot that people during a simulation, or even during a fire, they would get their phones to record the fire, or they would not go out of, they would still keep on the meeting on the phone, and that can be very dangerous. So we try to bring that into the game.
Okay, so just to summarize, the difference between gamification business and games in business is that games it is like separate type of software and separate type of product, right? And gamification is something that you integrate into your processes, right? To make this process of or learning or integration your users with your business more smoother and more funnier. And you just mentioned very nice point that gamification can be really good used to education, like to educate people about something. And can be also because our business here, we are making AI hackathons. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it seems like AI hackathons is also the way to gamificate learning process of to learn AI. You go for hackathon and you play with AI tools to learn. Yeah, that sounds like.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. Actually, one of the other cases of gamification I wanted to mention that we recently did was for an insurance company. And we used the gamification platform to create an asynchronous gamified hackathon. The thing about like the corporate world is that usually hackathons are not very accessible for them because it's too much. It's too deep. It's too much information. It's too much time. And usually it happens around like one day, one weekend, or even one week. And when we're talking about these corporate people, they can have maybe 30 minutes a day, 1 hour a day, but not like the whole day, like getting the whole company one day without working. It's really challenging. So we did a hackathon over a whole month. And every week we would come up with different parts and frameworks from design thinking where they would have to deliver that. So it was a way that, of course, some people worked outside of their working hours. We had people working around midnight, like uh, we had cases of people like watching the classes and doing the exercises
They
with
are
their family on
passionate
top.
about it, really. Yeah, that's
But
very cool.
it was a really good way of like getting into their agenda because uh, for companies sometimes it's hard because of the time, and it's something that they really liked because they were doing things and they were learning. Of course, we didn't do like much. We didn't have the resources. We used like some challenges, some prizes, some small gamification with the quest and everything. But it was a really nice way of making the hackathon accessible to corporate, I would say.
Okay. I we do not have so much time, so around 7 minutes, but still I have two questions that I'm really interested to ask you. I know that you had experience working with really big companies, let's say corporations like Microsoft, eBay, Samsung even. So and you working with culture, I mean like internal company culture, right? And you was working also with gamification of this culture. Can you tell just briefly what you were doing in these companies and how the gamification can be applied to big corporations?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about big corporations is that they have a lot of people, and you can make things scale a little bit better. Usually, they also have more money to invest, which is also good that you have like the resources to make things work. For example, for Intel this year, we designed a game for them uh, so they would train their retail partners, like from Walmart, Best Buy, like retail companies, on the differences around the Intel technologies and software. So we had 3 generations of uh, 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 I forgot the name right now. But like from i3 to i9, they had like the processors. They had like the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th generation. They had like memory cards. They had so many of the computer hardware pieces, uh, graphic plates, and things like that to understand the performance and the difference between those hardware. So we designed a game where the person would have to build a computer
Okay.
for their persona. We had
Mhm.
personas that like from a graphic designer to a computer student to like a corporate worker to like a general user, and they didn't have to build the most powerful computer every time, but they would have to understand the difference between the hardware to make a computer that is good for that persona. It was a way of training that people, and when they would have they when they would have to make a suggestion for a client, they would understand that better.
Yeah, that's right.
It was nice because we built for Brazil, but we already translated into English and Spanish, and we're already talking to Intel in Mexico to make an expansion. With other clients, like I mentioned some other programs, like for implementing a culture of feedback, or even for the
Yeah.
hackathon. We also did that for innovation as well. With Microsoft, we partnered with a consulting company from San Francisco, and we worked with more than 100 people from Gen Z to understand about the future of work. So we did a lot of think tanks on Myra, asking them questions on what impacts their work, what vision they had for how work would be in 10 years, for example.
Okay.
So it really depends on what the objective of the client is. Um, we were lucky enough to get like these big clients, but usually they come to us through Google Ads. So
Really? So
it's
they
not that
just find
we're
you
like,
as okay.
yeah, yeah, it's not that, of course, we try to actively get signed clients like that, but it was also like once one client signed and we have that on our portfolio, it's easier
Yeah,
to get
that's right. Yeah.
contacted, yeah, from such clients.
I have one more question from our participants. It's not so much related to gamification, but it's related to your entrepreneur experience that you have really a lot and maybe your training experience. You know the statistic that only 10% of percent of startups succeed and like in their probably first 3 years, correct me if I'm wrong, working in the market. And the question is, what do you think is the major mistakes committed and that we should avoid? I mean, teams who work in there's here on the hackathon should avoid because, as you know, on these hackathons they created the projects and they most of the team. Okay, I can't say most, but a lot of teams that have really good project and they continue working on it. And it's basically you're talking to community of startuppers here. Maybe you have some advices from your experience how to succeed and don't fail your business in the first 3 years.
Um, I mean, from my personal experience, like I didn't have any funding, I didn't have the means, like to start being full time. So I started part time. I worked with other clients, with other partners to get my first clients. Um, so that was something. I myself like am starting in this tech startup world like for about a year now, and I know some of the challenges, especially developing software. I know how hard it can be. One thing that was that we learned, especially from these past couple of years, is that it's really hard. Like sales is the most important part of the business, and you have to keep selling. This is like one of the biggest learnings that I had. For example, last year I outsourced my sales because I don't like doing sales very much. But that was not good for business, it's always good to get help. It's always good to automate processes, but usually the founding team knows more about the business, have more vision, and it's easier for the founding team to sell rather than just like a friend or even a person that is like a salesperson. Another thing that we learned is it's really hard to predict the market. So last year we went from 4 to 16 employees. We expanded the team because we were almost exhausted from so much work. And this year, with everything that is happening, the recession, the war in the Ukraine, here in Brazil was election year, business have not been so good, and it's very painful to fire people. I mean, I talked to every one of them. They kind of already knew. I was always transparent on our finances and how much we could do. But I think I took like a bigger step that I could do, like maybe growing the team from 4 to 6, 7 people instead of 16. That would be something good because even though we finished last year cash in the bank, this year we struggled a lot um,
Okay.
to survive even because like 5 months paying 16 salaries, like not having a lot of revenue, it was really challenging uh, for us. Another thing that I have been learning a lot is to find mentors. Sometimes I'm 30 years old. I started uh, being an entrepreneur. I was 23, 22 to 23. And even though now I have a lot of business experience, I am considered an expert in my area. I don't know a lot of stuff. So it's really good to have mentors and to have peers. One thing that I think that helped the most my business is that in 2017, 5 years ago, I got I was selected as a young leader of the Americas by the US government for an entrepreneurship program. And there I met like hundreds of entrepreneurs. And having that community of people that have been there, have done that, or have had some similar struggles is something that really helps me. It helps me not only from the perspective of, like sometimes I get some imposter syndrome, like, what am I doing? Like, how am I getting these clients? Like, who am I? But these people say, no, you're good enough. We also have those feelings. We also have those thoughts that being an entrepreneur, we're not, we'll never be good enough, but actually we are good enough. Sometimes we have
Mm-hmm.
perfection on the way, but it's better like to ship, to deliver, and then to improve and implement than to stay in this like, oh, get better, it can get better. Of course, it can always get better,
Yeah, exactly.
but
Mm-hmm.
as 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 hard as it can be, you can ship something and deliver value to some people. Maybe you get critiques. Maybe it won't be perfect, but with time, it will get better. Um,
Yeah, that's the
and
very famous quote and of like launch first and then make improvements and don't
yeah,
try to launch the perfect product. That's right.
yeah,
As we do
definitely.
not have so much time, I really want to cover one very important but probably very short topic is your company, which is skillup.co. And can you make for us maybe 2 minute speech about the company, what you're doing there, and how it can be, maybe helpful or have people who are watching us now and who will watch us after this live talk will like can interact with you.
Yeah, with the pandemic, we tried to go global and it didn't work very well, but we incorporated in the US. But now, this year that we were not as busy, we started with our global expansion. So we are already talking to some clients around the world, actually. They're mostly interested in the business simulations we work with, which are those board games. We also have them online where you play for one day and you learn about decision making or corporate finances. So the training aspect of it, uh, the consulting in either gamification or game design, it's something that it usually lasts around 2 to 3 months. It really depends on the scope of the project, but it's something that it has been a really challenging to. I mean, now we have like a great portfolio with great companies with some use cases, but still, like consulting is something that is already intangible. When we talk about gamification consulting, people usually they don't understand as well how it can impact their business. But I would say that if you want to learn more, if you want, like to talk about it, just on our website, as you said, skilllab.co, there's a link to book like a free meeting with me, 30 minutes. I would happily help, like I say that these meetings are for getting to know each other. It's not always about like business, about hiring us, but if there's anything that you want to learn more about company culture, gamification,
Mhm.
corporate training, just book a meeting with me there. It's super easy, and we can discuss how can gamification, game design, or even corporate training can help you or your company.
That's very nice. So yeah, guys, if you want to talk more with Avon, and you may just reach him out on LinkedIn, and even if you are interested in something regarding your project, you may talk to him, and he will give you really good advices. And I hope to see you, Avon, also on our hackathons. For the next time, and your community can engage even more with you. Thank you so much for being with us today and for this such warm talk. And yeah, hope to see you later. And if you have some final words to say to our community, you're welcome to say.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite. It has been really nice talking to you. Hope I can join a hackathon or I can help some of the businesses around here. Yeah, just keep doing. Just ask for help. That's really important. And yeah, as in game and in gamification, feedback is really important. Be that for your product, be that from your team, be that from your client. Just always ask for feedback.
Very nice words. Yes, guys. Every time ask for feedback. Thank you, Ivan.